I walked into the kitchen storage room to get more candles and walked out with blood at the corner of my mouth while my mother's fiancé still raised his champagne glass to our new family. My mother stood 10 feet away, her hand gripping her own champagne flute. Then stood still, didn't rush over, didn't ask why. That night, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop and named the plan Project Glass House because glass houses can't hide the stones inside. My name is Sloane Parker, and I've managed over 200 events at the Northbridge Civic Arts Center. I know how to make magic happen under pressure, but on the night of my mother's engagement party, I learned that some performances happen off stage, in the dark corners where no one's watching. 6 p.m., the Hawthorne Room gleamed with everything I'd orchestrated: ivory linens, crystal-catching candlelight, jazz trio warming up in the corner. I checked my clipboard seating chart, wine service rotation, timeline down to the minute. Gordon Tate, my mother's fiancé, worked the room like he owned it. Community hero, director of Summit Ridge Rescue and Safety, the man who'd saved 17 hikers last winter. To new beginnings, he said, voice booming across the hall at 8:45 p.m. To family, to community, to the sacred duty of keeping each other safe. My mother, Marla Quinn, glowed beside him in navy silk. She'd never looked happier. I adjusted the wireless mic pack clipped to my belt, ensuring the backup recording was running standard procedure for speeches we might need for promotional materials later. 9:15 p.m. The candles on table 12 were burning low. I slipped through the service corridor toward the kitchen storage, my heels clicking against polished concrete. The noise from the party faded to a muffled hum. Gordon followed me in at 9:22 p.m. You embarrassed her, he said, closing the door behind him, adjusting the microphone during my speech. The levels were peaking. It's my job. The first strike caught me across the cheek, snapping my head sideways. Before I could process it, he had me against the wall, his forearm pressed against my throat, not enough to stop me breathing, just enough to make each breath work. You think this is about you. His whisper smelled like champagne and something darker. Your mother chose me. This family runs through me now. You're just logistics. His grip on my upper arm would leave marks 5 fingers pressed deep enough to bruise. I memorized the pressure points, the way his wedding band caught the overhead fluorescent, the exact position of his body at 9:23 p.m. He released me at 9:24, straightened his tie. Clean yourself up. Don't ruin your mother's night. I waited until his footsteps faded before touching my mouth. Blood on my fingertips, metallic on my tongue. I grabbed a paper napkin from the shelf, dabbed carefully, then walked back into the golden light of the party at 9:27 p.m. My mother stood by the dessert table. Our eyes met across the room. She saw the napkin at my mouth, the way I cradled my left arm. She took a sip of champagne, turned to greet the Hendersons from the country club. The crowd noticed nothing. Gordon had already returned to his audience, gesturing broadly about flood rescue protocols. I moved through my duties like a ghost directing catering staff, cueing the band, smiling when spoken to. At 10:45 p.m., while Gordon accepted congratulations from the mayor, I slipped into the security office. My access codes still worked. I copied the hallway camera footage from 9:20 to 9:25 p.m. onto my phone. The angle showed Gordon following me into storage, the timeline clear as evidence. By 11:30 p.m., the party was winding down. I helped my mother into her coat, and she finally spoke. You've been distant tonight. Just tired, Mom. She knew. In that moment, with Gordon loading gifts into his Audi 20 feet away, she knew exactly what had happened in that storage room, and she chose to look away. I drove home in silence, my arm throbbing in rhythm with my heartbeat. In my apartment at 12:47 a.m., I didn't ice the bruises yet. First, I photographed them under proper lighting, multiple angles, ruler for scale, timestamp visible. Then I opened my laptop and created a new folder, Project Glass House, because glass houses might seem transparent, but they shatter when you throw the right stone. The morning after arrived with 3 text messages and a narrative already being rewritten. Gordon, 7:14 a.m. Sorry about last night. Got carried away celebrating. Hope you're okay. Gordon, 7:32 a.m. Your mom mentioned you seemed upset. Don't blow this out of proportion. Mom, 8:05 don't ruin my happiness. I screenshot each message, adding them to the folder. Then I drove to Riverside Medical Center, arriving at 9:20 a.m. The intake nurse didn't flinch when I explained I needed documentation for domestic violence. She'd seen this before. Any loss of consciousness? No. Current pain level? 4. Do you feel safe going home? Yes. He doesn't live with me. Dr. Amanda Reeves photographed everything: the purple-black fingerprints on my left bicep, the swollen corner of my mouth, the light bruising on my throat. She used a forensic ruler, proper lighting, asked me to hold positions while she captured multiple angles. The throat bruising is consistent with forearm compression, she noted clinically. The arm shows a clear grip pattern. I'm documenting probable defensive injuries. At 11:15 a.m., I sat in my car holding the medical report, 3 pages of objective evidence. No interpretation needed. Gordon called while I was driving home. I let it ring, then transcribed his voicemail. Sloan, we should talk like adults. I barely touched you. You walked into my hand when I was gesturing. Your mother's worried you're drinking too much. Maybe that's affecting your memory. The gaslighting was so textbook it almost impressed me. I'd walked into his hand. I was drinking. My memory was faulty. He was already building his defense, assuming I'd fight him on his chosen battlefield of he said, she said. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. At home, I spread out the evidence like a tactical map, the medical report, the screenshots, the security footage showing him follow me into that room at 9:22 p.m., emerge at 9:24. My phone had also captured something else: his speech from earlier that evening. The wireless mic recording everything, including a slurred edge to his words by the third toast. The timestamp showed 9:10 p.m. Just 12 minutes before the assault. I found the printed program from the engagement party, still in my purse. Someone had spilled red wine on it. The splatter pattern across Gordon's bio matched exactly where his right hand would have rested while holding it. The same hand that struck me. I photographed it under different angles of light until the wine stain looked like blood. Mom called at 2:37 p.m. Sweetheart, Gordon told me about the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? He was demonstrating something about rescue holds. You know how passionate he gets about his work. Rescue holds. Don't be dramatic, Sloan. You've always been sensitive. I wanted to send her the photos, the bruises that looked nothing like rescue practice. Instead, I said, You're right. I've been stressed. Good. Sunday dinner, then Gordon wants to clear the air. Of course. After hanging up, I texted my cousin Ava Rourke, who practiced family law in the next county. Need to discuss a hypothetical situation. Free for coffee. Her response was immediate. Hypothetical situations are my specialty. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I dug out my old journal from college and found the entry from when Mom was dating Richard, another charming man who'd grabbed my wrist too hard at Thanksgiving, whose temper she'd explained away until he'd shoved her into a bookshelf. She'd left him then, sworn she'd never tolerate that again. Now she was marrying Gordon Tate, and when he'd bloodied her daughter's mouth at their engagement party, she'd chosen to look away. At 11:43 p.m., I opened a spreadsheet. 3 columns appeared: public reputation, legal vulnerabilities, financial pressure points. Gordon thought he'd won something in that storage room. He thought he'd established dominance, set the terms for our new family dynamic. He thought my silence meant submission. He was wrong. My silence was strategy. My compliance was camouflage. And every text he sent, every lie he told, every attempt to rewrite reality, all of it was becoming evidence. The bruises would fade in 2 weeks. The documentation would last forever. Project Glass House became my obsession. Each column in the spreadsheet a potential fracture point in Gordon Tate's carefully constructed life. Column 1. Public reputation. Gordon had won the Riverton Humanitarian Award twice. Served on the board of 3 nonprofits. His photo hung in the Summit Ridge Rescue Headquarters next to a letter from the governor. Every search result painted him as a saint who dedicated his life to saving others, but saints shouldn't have blood under their fingernails. Column 2. Legal vulnerabilities. Assault. Battery. Potential violation of workplace harassment laws since the venue was technically my workplace. The security footage established timeline and pursuit. The medical documentation proved injury. Ava would know how to weaponize each element. Column 3. Financial pressure points. This one required more digging. Summit Ridge Rescue operated partly on public funds, partly on private donations. The Summit Ridge Foundation, their nonprofit arm, threw expensive galas. Gordon signed every check, 3 p.m., at Brewster's Coffee. Ava Rourke listened to my hypothetical while taking notes on a legal pad. She didn't interrupt until I finished. First thing, document everything going forward, every interaction, every text, every voicemail. Save original files and backups. She tapped her pen against the paper. Second, consider a temporary restraining order. The medical report and security footage should be sufficient. Would that be public record? Yes, but that's not necessarily bad. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. What about the wedding? It's in 3 weeks. Ava smiled grimly. Restraining orders don't care about wedding schedules. If granted, he couldn't be within 500 feet of you. Makes walking down the aisle complicated. That night, I recruited my second ally. Detective Mariah Cross from Bryer County had presented at our center about evidence preservation for a women's safety workshop. I still had her card. Ms. Parker, she said when I called. I remember you. What can I help with? Hypothetically, if someone wanted to build an airtight case for assault. Stop. Are you safe right now? Yes. Good. Here's what you need to know about chain of custody. She spent 40 minutes teaching me how to think like a prosecutor. Original files stay untouched. Copies get organized chronologically. Every piece of evidence needs documentation showing when and how it was obtained. She emphasized something crucial. Don't try to gather evidence illegally. Anything obtained improperly becomes inadmissible and can tank your entire case. Over the next week, I played the compliant daughter. Sunday dinner at Mom's house. Gordon carving roast beef while describing a recent rescue. I smiled, passed the potatoes, and noticed how he'd positioned himself between me and the exit. Mom chatted about wedding flowers, oblivious or determined to be. Sloane's been distant, Gordon said, testing boundaries. Haven't you? Just busy with work. The Morrison benefit is next month. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. A possessive gesture disguised as warmth. Family comes first. I didn't pull away. Let him think he owned this moment while my phone, recording in my pocket, captured the subtle threat in his tone. Meanwhile, I'd submitted public records requests for Summit Ridge's financial reports. As a nonprofit, their tax documents were public. The Form 990s painted an interesting picture. Fundraising expenses had doubled since Gordon became director. The foundation's credit card statements, obtained through a contact at the Civic Arts Center who served on their board, showed charges at restaurants, jewelers, and hotels that seemed excessive for donor cultivation. Tuesday, 10 a.m., another piece fell into place. An email arrived through the center's general inbox, someone asking if we had footage from that incredible speech Mr. Tate gave at his engagement party for a tribute video. I didn't recognize the sender, but I recognized trauma in the carefully worded request. Someone else was building their own glass house. I replied professionally that I'd check our archives, then sent a follow-up from my personal email. If you need to talk about Gordon Tate off the record, I'm available. The response came within an hour. A young man named Marcus, whom Gordon had mentored through the youth program, wanted to share his story but feared retribution. We met at a park outside town. He never hit me, Marcus said quickly. But the threats, the intimidation. He'd volunteer to drive me home, then take detours to isolated places. Said he was teaching me about rescue locations. But he'd describe what happens to people who betray their team, how accidents happen in dangerous terrain. Marcus had texts, screenshots, a pattern of control disguised as mentorship. By Thursday, my spreadsheet had grown into a comprehensive battle plan. Financial irregularities suggested forensic accounting might find more. Multiple witnesses established pattern behavior. The legal framework was solid, but the masterstroke would be the wedding itself. Gordon's reputation was his armor. The wedding was his coronation mayor attending, donors celebrating, press coverage planned. Glass houses aren't just transparent. They're fragile. And when they shatter, everyone sees the breaking. The deeper I dug into Gordon's financial records, the more cracks appeared in his heroic facade. My mother had given me access to their shared wedding planning email account to coordinate vendor payments, she'd said. But Gordon had been sloppy, forwarding work emails to that account when his phone died during venue tours. Thursday, 11:23 p.m. I found the thread that would unravel everything. Per our discussion, the Foundation appreciates your generous support. Gordon had written to Robert Steinberg, owner of 3 construction companies. The attached invoice for emergency equipment rental should resolve the permit issues you mentioned. No emergency equipment had been rented. The Summit Ridge Foundation's bank records, which I'd obtained through Marcus's friend who interned there, showed a $50,000 deposit from Steinberg Construction 2 days later. The permits for Steinberg's controversial development near protected wetlands were approved the following week. I cross-referenced every major donation against Gordon's email timestamps. A pattern emerged: crisis fabrication followed by convenient resolution. The 17 hikers he'd saved last winter. The incident report showed they were experienced climbers who'd called for routine assistance, not the near-death rescue Gordon had sold to the media and donors. Friday afternoon, I met with Chef Daniel at the Hawthorne Room under the pretense of reviewing upcoming event menus. That engagement party, he said carefully, after I'd steered the conversation. I heard something in the storage room. A hit, like someone striking meat. Then I saw you come out holding your face. Would you be willing to say that officially? He hesitated. Gordon's powerful. He could destroy my catering contracts. What if he wasn't powerful anymore? Daniel studied me. Then I'd tell the truth. My sous chef heard it too, and the lighting technician, Jamie, mentioned Gordon grabbed you pretty hard pulling you into that room. 3 witnesses, all afraid to speak until Gordon's power was neutralized. Saturday brought an unexpected gift. Mom asked me to pick up Gordon's dry cleaning while they met with the wedding photographer. His suits hung in a row, but it was the receipt in his jacket pocket that caught my attention. Dinner at Chateau Laurent. $800, paid with the Summit Ridge Foundation credit card. The date 1 week before the engagement party. The guest Patricia Morse, the state inspector who'd just approved their $2 million facility expansion grant. I photographed everything, then discovered something else in his breast pocket. A hotel key card from the Grand View, room 412. The same hotel where the foundation held their donor galas. The same room they kept reserved for VIP speakers. The metadata from the keycard's magnetic strip, readable through a scanner app Marcus had shown me, indicated it had been used 43 times in the past 6 months. Always on nights when Mom thought Gordon was at rescue training. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number: "Stop digging or your mother pays the price." Then a photo: Mom's car in a parking garage. Gordon visible in the reflection of her window. I screenshotted immediately, forwarding to Detective Cross with a note. Threat received at 2:47 p.m. Her response was swift. This establishes escalation. Can expedite the restraining order now. But I wasn't ready for that yet. The restraining order was a defensive move. I was building toward something bigger. Sunday dinner again. Gordon watched me throughout the meal, his confidence apparently restored by his threat. Mom talked about honeymoon plans for Bermuda while I calculated how many federal crimes Gordon had committed with those fraudulent invoices. "You've been busy lately, Sloane," Gordon said, carving into his steak. "All those late nights at the center." "Event season," I replied evenly. "Funny, I drove by Thursday night. Your car wasn't there." Mom looked between us, sensing undercurrents. "Maybe we should discuss the rehearsal dinner instead." "Actually," I interrupted, "I've been meeting with some of Gordon's former colleagues. They speak so highly of you. Gordon, especially the youth program participants." His knife paused mid-cut. "Which participants?" "Oh, several. They're eager to share their stories at the wedding, testimonials about your mentorship." The threat in my voice was subtle but clear. "I know about Marcus. I know about others." Gordon's jaw tightened. "Perhaps we should screen those testimonials first, for appropriateness?" "Of course." "Transparency is so important in your line of work." After dinner, Mom walked me to my car. "What's really going on?" "Sloane." For a moment, I considered telling her everything. Instead, I said, "Ask Gordon about room 412 at the Grandview." She went pale but said nothing. By midnight, I had compiled everything into a single encrypted folder: financial fraud, intimidation of witnesses, falsified rescue reports, a pattern of abuse hiding behind a hero's badge. Each document was precisely labeled, chronologically ordered, with a clear chain of custody that would hold up in court. The glass house was complete. Now I just needed to choose the perfect stone to throw. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for Friday at 7 p.m. at the Riverside Club. I didn't plan to attend, but I had other arrangements for that evening. Wednesday morning, Ava filed the temporary restraining order petition with calculated precision. We'd timed it perfectly. The process server would deliver it during the rehearsal dinner, in front of 50 witnesses, with Detective Cross standing by with her body camera activated. "The beauty of serving him at a public event," Ava explained, "is that any reaction becomes part of the record. If he explodes, threatens, or tries to approach you afterward, instant violation." Thursday. I sent an email to the wedding videographer from my professional account. "Dear James, I'm coordinating a special surprise video tribute for Gordon Tate's wedding. Could we arrange for AV equipment to play it during the reception? I'll provide the file on a USB day of." James replied within an hour. "Absolutely, Gordon deserves recognition for all his heroic work. I'll have everything ready." I prepared 3 identical USBs, one for the venue's AV system, one for backup, and one already delivered to Detective Cross as evidence. The video was 43 seconds long enough to destroy a reputation, short enough that no one could stop it in time. Friday, 5:30 p.m. I sat in my apartment with Marcus, Chef Daniel, and Jamie the lighting technician. We watched the security feed from the Riverside Club's parking lot on my laptop. Ava had a contact there who owed her a favor. "There's Gordon's car," Marcus said, pointing at the screen. 6:45 p.m. The rehearsal dinner guests were arriving. Mom wore emerald green, her favorite color. She looked beautiful and fragile. 7:22 p.m. The process server entered the building. My phone buzzed with Ava's play-by-play texts. Server approaching Gordon's table. Papers presented. Gordon reading. He's standing up, face red. Your mother just dropped her wine glass. Then the video Ava secretly recorded Gordon shoving back his chair, voice carrying across the elegant dining room. "This is bullshit." "Where is she? Where's Sloane?" The server's calm response. "Sir, you've been served. The restraining order is effective immediately. You cannot contact or come within 500 feet of Sloane Parker." At my rehearsal dinner, that little Gordon, Mom's voice cracked. "People are watching." "I don't care who's watching. She's trying to ruin." Detective Cross stepped into frame, badge visible. "Mr. Tate, I'm going to need you to calm down. Any attempt to contact Ms. Parker will result in immediate arrest." The beautiful part was that I hadn't needed to be there. The restraining order spoke for itself: detailed documentation of assault, witness statements, medical records. Every guest at that dinner now knew what Gordon had done, even as he tried to spin it. 8:15 p.m. My phone exploded with messages. Not from Gordon, he couldn't contact me now, but from wedding guests. Is it true what the papers say? I had no idea Gordon was violent. Your poor mother. Mom called from the parking lot, crying. How could you do this? The wedding is tomorrow. He assaulted me. Mom, you saw my face that night. You could have handled this privately. Like you handled Richard privately until he broke your ribs. Silence. Then, the wedding is still happening. I don't care about a piece of paper. The restraining order means Gordon can't be within 500 feet of me. If I attend the wedding, he'll be arrested. Then don't come. The line went dead. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. While the florist arranged centerpieces at Hawthorne Hall, I met with the AV technician, Tommy, who I'd worked with for 3 years. I need you to do something for me, I said, handing him the USB. At exactly 3:45 p.m., during Gordon's speech, this needs to play. Tommy looked at the USB like it might explode. What's on it? The truth. And Tommy, once it starts, let it finish, no matter who tells you to stop. This could end my career. Gordon ended mine the moment he put his hands on me. But I'm not asking you to risk anything. Here's a contract hiring you as a private consultant for my company. Whatever happens, you're protected. He pocketed the USB. 3:45 p.m. The wedding was scheduled for 3 p.m. I arrived at 2:45, accompanied by Ava and Detective Cross, who was off duty but wearing her body camera for personal documentation. Mom saw me from the bridal suite window. Her expression cycled through surprise, rage, and something that might have been relief. Gordon was in the groomsman's chamber, unaware of my presence. Yet, the trap was set. The stone was ready. The glass house was about to shatter. Hawthorne Hall had never looked more pristine. 3 p.m. sharp. White roses and baby's breath lined the aisle. LED uplighting painted the walls in soft gold, and 200 guests filled the ceremonial space. The mayor sat in the third row. The Channel 7 news crew filmed from the back corner. Gordon had invited them to cover his community celebration. I took my position in the last row with Ava and Detective Cross, close enough to the exit, far enough from Gordon to comply with the restraining order. For now. The processional music began. Gordon emerged from the side door in his charcoal tuxedo, Summit Ridge rescue pin prominent on his lapel. He scanned the crowd, his expression freezing when he spotted me. His best man whispered something, probably reminding him about the 500-foot requirement. Gordon's jaw clenched, but he held his position at the altar. Mom appeared in the doorway, radiant in ivory silk despite the darkness underneath her eyes. She'd chosen an A-line dress that moved like water, her grandmother's pearls at her throat. She didn't look at me as she passed. The ceremony proceeded with mechanical precision. Vows about trust, partnership, protection. Gordon's voice carried strong and clear. Marla, you've given me purpose beyond saving strangers. You've given me family. 3:30 p.m. They were pronounced husband and wife. The kiss was brief, perfunctory. Mom's smile looked painted on. The reception hall beckoned through French doors, round tables dressed in white, the LED wall behind the head table displaying rotating photos of the happy couple. Gordon had requested the biggest screen available, perfect for his ego, perfect for my purposes. 3:35 p.m. Cocktail hour. Gordon worked the room like a politician, carefully maintaining distance from my corner, but his eyes kept finding me, calculating. Mom drifted between conversations, champagne untouched in her hand. Robert Steinberg approached Gordon near the bar, pumping his hand. Congratulations, looking forward to our continued partnership on the waterfront project. Patricia Morse, the state inspector, air-kissed Mom. Such a beautiful wedding. Gordon promised me a tour of the new Summit Ridge facility next week. Every corrupt connection gathered in one room. 3:40 p.m. The wedding party took their seats at the head table. The MC Gordon's deputy director called for attention. Before we hear from the happy couple, let's take a moment to appreciate the man of the hour. Gordon Tate isn't just a hero to this community. He's a mentor, a leader, a 3:45 p.m. The LED wall flickered. The romantic slideshow vanished. My face filled the screen. Blood at the corner of my mouth. The timestamp read 9:27 p.m. Engagement party. Gordon shot to his feet. Turn that off. But Tommy let it play. The audio began Gordon's voice, captured by my wireless mic in the storage room. You think this is about you? Your mother chose me. This family runs through me now. The screen split. Security footage showed Gordon following me into the storage room at 9:22 p.m. Emerging at 9:24. The math was simple, undeniable. Another split-screen medical records. Dr. Reeves's clinical notes about defensive injuries. The photograph of 5 finger-shaped bruises on my arm. The room erupted. Chairs scraped back. The news camera swung toward the screen. Mom stood frozen at the head table, her bouquet falling from her hands. Gordon lunged toward the AV booth. I said turn it off. Stay where you are, Mr. Tate, Detective Cross commanded, stepping forward. The final frame appeared. A spreadsheet of foundation transactions. Fake invoices highlighted in red. The Steinberg payment. The inspector's dinner. Federal mail fraud. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. The video ended with my voice, recorded that morning. A hero doesn't hide bruises. A hero doesn't steal from the people he claims to save. Today, you see who Gordon Tate really is. 3:46 p.m. Silence. Then Robert Steinberg. Those invoices. Gordon, you said they were legitimate. Patricia Morse was already heading for the exit. I need to make a call. The mayor stood slowly, his face grave. Mr. Tate, I think we need to discuss your position at Summit Ridge. Gordon spun toward me, crossing half the room before remembering the restraining order. He stood there, 30 feet away, fists clenched. You planned this. You destroyed everything. I stood up, my voice carrying clear across the stunned reception hall. You think this is about you? No, this is about the truth. Gordon took another step forward, then another. 5 more steps would violate the order. Gordon, Mom whispered from the head table. Don't. He took those 5 steps. The moment Gordon crossed that invisible line, Detective Cross moved with practiced efficiency. Gordon Tate, you're under arrest for violation of a restraining order. This is my wedding. He tried to sidestep her, still advancing toward me. Stop moving, Mr. Tate. Cross had her cuffs out. The news camera captured everything. Gordon lunged past her, reaching for me. You little bitch! You ruined! Cross caught his arm, twisted it behind his back in one fluid motion. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed through the silent hall. 200 guests watched Riverton's hero faceplant into his own wedding cake table, white frosting smearing across his charcoal tuxedo. But I wasn't done. Screen 2, I said to Tommy. The LED wall lit up again. This time, audio only. Gordon's slurred voice from a different recording, one Marcus had made during a mentorship drive. Kid, let me tell you about power. You make them need you, then you make them fear you. Take that Sloane, for instance. One good hit, and she'll learn her place. Her mother already has. Mom's champagne glass shattered on the floor. Screen 3. Financial records scrolled past. Not just the fraud I'd already shown, but something new. Gordon's secret account in the Caymans, funded by systematic skimming from donation drives. The 17 hikers he'd saved. Their grateful families had donated $300,000 to Summit Ridge. Only half had made it to the organization. That's enough, Detective Cross said, but not to me to Gordon, who was struggling against the cuffs. Screen 4. Hotel records from the Grand View. Room 412. 43 visits in 6 months. The receipts showed 2 guests each time. Security stills from the hotel corridor showed Gordon entering with different women, none of them my mother. Patricia Morse appeared in 3 photos, a young Summit Ridge volunteer in 7 others. Mom sank into her chair, still in her wedding dress, as the truth played out on a screen the size of a movie theater. Final screen. A compilation of text messages Gordon had sent to multiple women over the past year, obtained legally through the discovery process of the restraining order. Threats disguised as concern. Control dressed as care. The same words he'd whispered to me in that storage room, recycled for victim after victim. "I mentored that girl," Gordon shouted at the screen, showing his messages to the young volunteer. "This is taken out of context." "The context," I said, loud enough for the news crew to capture, "is that you're a predator who hides behind a badge and a hero complex." Robert Steinberg was on his phone with his lawyer. 3 donors were demanding their contributions back from Gordon's deputy. The mayor had stepped outside to call an emergency board meeting, but the final blow came from an unexpected source. "I have something to add." Chef Daniel stepped forward from the catering station. "I recorded this on my phone during the engagement party." He held up his device. The audio was muffled but clear, the sound of impact. Flesh hitting flesh. Then Gordon's voice. "Clean yourself up. Don't ruin your mother's night." "I have the same recording." Jamie, the lighting tech, called out. Different angle. "Me too." A woman I didn't recognize stood up. "I was serving drinks. I saw him grab her." One by one, witnesses stood. Staff, guests who'd been too afraid to speak before. The silence broke like a dam. Detective Cross had to call for backup. Not just for Gordon, but for the investigation that would follow. Federal agents would need to be contacted about the fraud. The state inspector's office about the bribes. The news crew kept filming. Gordon's groomsmen backed away from the head table. His deputy director was already drafting a resignation letter on his phone. The wedding photographer lowered his camera, refusing to document any more of this disaster. Through it all, Gordon kept shouting denials, threats, accusations. Each word dug his hole deeper, recorded by multiple phones and the news camera. "Sloane Parker!" he screamed as Cross led him toward the exit. "I'll destroy you for this." "No," I said quietly, but my mic was still on, broadcasting through the hall's speaker system. "You destroyed yourself. I just provided the screen." The LED wall behind the abandoned head table still cycled through evidence. Financial crimes carrying 10 to 20 years, assault charges with video proof, witness tampering from his threats at the rehearsal dinner, the restraining order violation in front of 200 witnesses. Mom finally looked at me across the chaos of her ruined reception. Her makeup had run, leaving black streams down her cheeks. The pearls at her throat, her grandmother's pearls, worn at her first wedding to my father. A good man who died too young caught the light. "You knew," I said. Not a question, but a statement. "You knew what he was." She opened her mouth, closed it, then slowly nodded. The handcuffs closed with a definitive click that echoed through Hawthorne Hall. 4:17 p.m. on what should have been my mother's happiest day. I turned my back on the chaos, walking past the overturned champagne flutes and abandoned wedding favors. My heels clicked against the marble floor in steady rhythm, not running, not hesitating. Behind me, Tommy pulled the USB from the AV system and slipped it into an evidence bag that Detective Cross had ready. Ava fell into step beside me. "The federal prosecutor will want everything by Monday. It's already uploaded to the secure server. Chain of custody documented." We passed the gift table where Gordon's rescue squad colleagues had left wrapped presents for a marriage that lasted exactly 22 minutes. The news crew tried to follow, but I didn't stop. This wasn't about fame or vindication. It was about ending a story that never should have started. At the doorway, I paused. Mom stood alone at the head table, still in her wedding dress, staring at the cake with Gordon's face print in the frosting. The mayor was on one phone, the district attorney on another. 3 Summit Ridge board members huddled near the bar, drafting Gordon's termination letter on a napkin. Patricia Morse, the inspector, was already in custody in the parking lot she'd tried to flee but found FBI agents waiting. They'd been tipped off an hour before the ceremony. My final insurance policy. Robert Steinberg's construction empire would crumble by morning when the warrants were served. The young volunteer Gordon had groomed found me by the exit. "Thank you," she whispered. "I thought I was alone." "You were never alone. He just made you think you were." Gordon's shouts faded as the police car pulled away. Through the window, I saw him in the back seat, his tuxedo ruined, his reputation destroyed, his freedom ended. He was mouthing words I couldn't hear and didn't need to. Men like Gordon always had last words. They just didn't matter anymore. Mom appeared in the doorway. "Sloan," I waited. "I'm sorry." The words came out broken. I thought if I pretended hard enough, I could make it work, make him different. He showed you who he was. Mom, you chose not to see it. I saw it. I was just too afraid to be alone again. Better alone than bruised. She nodded, tears falling freely now. The marriage is annulled. It never legally happened. Good. We stood there, mother and daughter, with the wreckage of her wedding between us. Tomorrow, there would be questions, investigations, trial preparations. But right now, in this moment, Gordon Tate's story was over. I walked to my car, where Marcus waited in the passenger seat. He'd watched everything on his phone through Tommy's live stream. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it. We did it. Every witness, every document. Every person who stood up today." As I drove away from Hawthorne Hall, my phone buzzed with notifications. The video had already been shared 3,000 times. The news station wanted an exclusive. The state attorney general's office needed my testimony. Summit Ridge families demanded answers, but I didn't check any of them. Instead, I pulled over at Riverside Park, where Gordon had once stood for his hero photo shoot after the fake hiker rescue. The billboard with his face still smiled down at the highway. Gordon Tate saving lives, building futures. By tomorrow, it would be gone. I didn't go to the trial. Didn't need to. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. 43 seconds of video had turned into 18 federal charges, 12 state charges, and 1 life sentence for the accumulated crimes. The Summit Ridge Foundation was dissolved. The money recovered went to legitimate domestic violence shelters. Mom sold the house and moved to Phoenix to stay with her sister. We talk on Sundays now. Short conversations about safe topics. She's in therapy. So am I. The last time I saw Gordon was on the news orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front, being led into federal prison. He looked smaller somehow, deflated without his hero's costume and captive audience. The reporter mentioned he'd tried to blame me for fabricating evidence. The judge had laughed. Project Glass House closed on my laptop with a simple click, but its lesson remains carved into my memory. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them the first time. And when the glass house finally shatters, don't look back at the ruins. I didn't come to stop a wedding. I came to end a mythology. And when the handcuffs clicked shut, the story ended. I am Sloan Parker. I survived. I fought back. And I won. Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your experiences and perspectives matter, and this community grows stronger when we share our truths together.